Hello there, fellow travelers. I'm Tim from Secret Fire Books, here with a book review. This time I'm reviewing The Guns of Avalon by Roger Zelazny. This is the second book in the Chronicles of Amber series. I reviewed the first book in the series, Nine Princes in Amber, with my friends at the Elusive Exclusive Book Society a few months ago. If you've not checked out that video and you're interested, I will include a link to that massive, hour-long, in-depth discussion in the description below. But just to let you guys know, this video will contain massive spoilers for Nine Princes in Amber, so if you've not read that first book, you might want to click away. I'm only going to go into minor spoilers for Guns of Avalon, because I don't want to get too deep into the story, but there are some plot points that I need to touch on in order to express my opinions. Now, Guns of Avalon picks up exactly where Nine Princes left off. Our main character, Corwin, the disgraced Prince of Amber, has just recently escaped the dungeons where he was confined by his brother, Eric, the newly crowned King of Amber, after the two of them waged war over the throne. And as can be expected of a god-level being who does not get his way, Corwin is not happy about losing the war. He has once again vowed revenge. He seeks to amass another army, kill Eric, and take the throne that he believes is rightfully his. And his plan for doing so hinges on the fact that guns do not work in Amber. In the one true world of Amber, gunpowder does not have the same combustible capabilities that it does here on Earth. However, in the land of Avalon, a shadow realm that Corwin once ruled over many years ago, he believes he can find a compound that will have similar combustible effects in Amber that gunpowder does here on Earth. And so he plans to amass a great quantity of this substance, this jeweler's rouge as he calls it, and then go back to Earth, to our shadow world, and there contact an arms dealer who can get him a bunch of customized firearms. Because he's a Prince of Amber, he has that kind of clout, those kind of connections, that kind of resource management. He can do that. He's going to get a ton of weapons and use these customized weapons with this jeweler's rouge to outfit another army and then use them to wage another war on the throne and kill Eric and take back Amber for himself. Why he didn't do this when he and Eric first fought over the throne, I have no idea. I really don't. Maybe other people who have read the series multiple times will know better than me. Maybe I'm missing something. But in any case, this is a Roger Zelazny fantasy novel, so as good as the writing can be most of the time, I've since learned that I definitely need to check certain things like suspension of disbelief at the front door and just roll with it. I just gotta roll with whatever he's giving me. Now, while he's on his quest to find this jeweler's rouge in Avalon, Corwin also has to deal with the fact that events from the previous book have major repercussions. If you remember, in Nine Princes in Amber, Corwin pronounced a curse upon Eric. When Eric defeated him in battle and kept him as a prisoner in the dungeons of Amber, Corwin announced a curse upon Eric and his rule as King of Amber. And when that powerful of a being, a son of Amber, a literal god, pronounces a curse like that, it has some major, major consequences. And Corwin soon finds that the words he spoke back in Book 1 have reached the far ends of the multiverse, and now dark, malevolent forces are creeping into the Shadow Realms and into Amber itself. And so, much like any Warhammer 40k game gone wrong, we've got Chaos Demons. Lots and lots of Chaos Demons. The first good thing that I'll say about this book is that Roger Zelazny is an absolute master of pacing. He has his foot on the gas pedal from the beginning. Like I said, we pick up exactly where Nine Princes in Amber left off, and we do not let up with the momentum until the very end. This has a constant sense of forward momentum. Even when our main character Corwin seems to be going off on some kind of side quest, that side quest will inevitably move the plot forward. And closely related to that, I think, is the exactness in character motivation and goals. Even at his most prosaic, Roger Zelazny does a very good job of letting his reader know exactly what our character wants and exactly what he's trying to do. You are in there with Corwin. You are in his brain, seeing how he ticks. You know exactly what he's trying to do. It is very, very clear about that. And that clarity of character motivation and that pacing, I think, is very important when you're dealing with a big, grand concept like Amber. The Chronicles of Amber series is basically an epic fantasy. Maybe not in length, but in sheer scope and concept. I find it really interesting that there are a lot of modern writers who fail to do with upwards of 1,000 pages what Roger Zelazny does very easily in 200. You can have massive cosmic level world building, Brandon. You can have really deep interconnected character relationships, George, but you don't have to bloat the size of your book to ridiculous degrees in order to portray all that. I think that Roger Zelazny's work really kind of proves that. This is epic fantasy, but with all the fat trimmed down. It's epic fantasy, but with the pacing of a pulp novella. It's really, really cool. And at the same time, Roger Zelazny does a good job of sprinkling a lot of really cool foreshadowing throughout his story. I think I might have missed some of it, but I definitely picked up on some of the elements that he was trying to foreshadow in this story. For example, at one point, Corwin and his companion are making camp in the middle of the woods, and this teenage kid, this deserter from some army, sneaks into their camp to try to steal some things. And Corwin's companion ends up capturing him. And when Corwin comes back on the scene and sees what happened, the book describes this scenario as this young kid hanging upside down by his ankle from a rope from a tree branch. Corwin's companion has strung him up like this. And when I saw that, I stopped for a second and thought, wait a second, a young man hanging from his right ankle, suspended upside down from a tree branch. That's the Hanged Man from the Greater Arcana, is it not? I don't know that much about tarot cards and tarot card readings or any of the pseudoscience that goes into that kind of thing, but I do know that the different trump cards in a tarot deck represent different things, different fortunes for whoever's fortune you're reading, and they have different meanings depending on who you're reading for and what position the card is in, whether it's flipped upright or reversed or stuff like that. But I thought to myself, if I knew what those cards meant, if I knew the meaning behind those cards, would I get the subtle foreshadowing that Roger Zelazny is trying to tell us? Because he's clearly showing us an image of the Hanged Man. So is he trying to tell us what Corwin's destiny is? Is this a tiny, tiny bit of foreshadowing of the things to come? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that he puts in these stories. They're very dense despite the low page count, and I really, really appreciate that. But as great as all that is, I do have a few complaints with Roger Zelazny's writing style. The thing is, a lot of people here on YouTube, especially recently, have sung Roger Zelazny's praises. They say he is one of the greatest science fiction and fantasy writers of all time, and I want to believe that. I really, really do. But there are certain parts of his writing that I just don't get, and it makes me really frustrated. The big thing is, I think that I don't know if Roger Zelazny always knows where his scenes are going. If I've learned anything from reading his book, The Changing Land, I've learned that he doesn't always have the greatest grasp on where his story is headed. He might have a vague idea of where he wants the story to be, and he has that his foot on the gas pedal at all times, but he doesn't always know where he's going. Sometimes there are spots in his plot that need to be filled in, and he doesn't always know the best way to fill them in, or at least that's how I see it. A lot of his scenes will be wonderfully written with really good character interactions and a real structure that benefits the overall plot. And then there will be scenes where he just throws up a bunch of fragmented sentences connected by ellipses, and he'll call that a chapter. I just really don't get it. I don't like having this mindset, but every time I pick up a Roger Zelazny book, there's always this nagging thought in the back of my head that says, okay, you're going to read through this book, and at some point, there's going to be at least one scene, usually a scene connecting two totally rational scenes, that's going to be totally stupid, and it's going to be just a wild drug trip, and you're just going to have to trudge on through it. You're just going to have to roll with it. It's not going to make any sense. It's going to seem like it won't go anywhere, but it'll get you from one scene to the next. And I don't like having that thought going into these books. I want to be totally positive going into a book like this, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way I think about it going into a Roger Zelazny story. So I understand that might be totally subjective. I might be totally wrong. Maybe Roger Zelazny does have all of this down pat. Maybe he does structure everything. It just doesn't seem like that to me. And I know that this is also very, very subjective on my part, but there were a few too many times, in my opinion, where characters used really modern language, kind of modern vernacular. Even when they were in these medieval fantasy worlds, they were still using phrases like, "aw, crap," or "ditto," and it really got on my nerves. It really kind of distracted me from the story. I get it. This is a big, multi-dimensional, world-hopping adventure. Corwin and his siblings have been to all the different worlds. They've been to Earth. They picked up the vernacular there. But it just was really distracting for me. Now, if it seems like I'm being a little harsh on this book, just know that I can forgive most of that because of the fact that Guns of Avalon introduces us to pretty much my favorite character from the series so far. It introduces us to yet another one of Corwin's many siblings who was not present in Book 1. Benedict is Corwin's oldest brother, the eldest son of King Oberon. And the way Corwin describes him is he's basically the ultimate master of war. He is an expert strategist, an expert swordsman. He can pick up any weapon and dismantle his enemies with it in record time. Now, Corwin wasn't afraid of Eric. Eric is supposed to be one of the greatest swordsmen in all of the world, and yet Corwin bravely faced him and almost won in a sword fight against him. But he would not dare fight Benedict. He is terrified of Benedict. And the thing is, when we meet him, Benedict is actually missing a hand. He's since lost one of his hands since the last time he and Corwin met. And one of Corwin's companions says, well, he can't be that tough with one missing hand. And Corwin just looks at this dude and says, you have no idea. Benedict could be writhing around on all four stumps like the Black Knight from Monty Python. I still wouldn't want to face him in battle. He is terrifying. And so he gets really built up as this very formidable figure. And we do get a fight scene with him later in the story, and it is amazing. Benedict can go from rather peaceable and actually amicable to straight up Terminator in an instant. He is a bad dude, and I was enjoying every single second of this fight scene. It was spectacular. And so if I'm going to get more character moments like that, if I'm going to get more action like that in the rest of the Amber series, I am definitely down to read the rest of it. But that's all my opinion, guys. Let me know in the comments, have you read Guns of Avalon? What did you think of it? What is your favorite book in the Corwin cycle or in the greater Amber series? Until next time, guys, as always, farewell and keep reading.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it. Ah! Good God! It's hideous. But beautiful in an ugly way. But mostly hideous. Ugh. Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. It's like a visceral reaction of discontent coming from this area. This area is not good either. I hate this, but I'm mainly worried about this. This right here is my favorite thing ever. In the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.